You won't believe what happened when an HOA Karen decided to pick a fight with my disabled wife, inside a courtroom of all places. She thought my wife was weak, powerless, and easy to humiliate. But what she didn't know was that my wife had a secret weapon. She's a legal genius. And when Karen insulted her in front of the entire court, my wife unleashed a storm that Karen never saw coming. Let me take you back to how it all began. I live with my wife, Emily, in a quiet suburban neighborhood. We bought our home because it had wide sidewalks, smooth streets, and an accessible design. Perfect for Emily, who uses a wheelchair after a spinal injury years ago. She's one of the strongest people I know, brilliant and sharp, and even though life tried to knock her down, she always finds a way to stand tall. But the one thing we didn't account for was the HOA, our homeowners association. And more specifically, the queen of all Karens who ran it, Linda. Linda was the type of person who believed she owned the whole neighborhood. She had this permanent scowl on her face, a short blonde haircut, and a voice that could peel paint off walls. At first, it was small things. She complained about the color of our door, saying it didn't match the neighborhood aesthetic. Then she nitpicked about the size of our mailbox, even though it was identical to everyone else's. But things escalated when she saw the wheelchair ramp we had installed. One afternoon, she marched right up to our porch, heels clacking on the pavement like a marching band. "This ramp is unsightly," she sneered. "It lowers property values. You need to remove it immediately." Emily stayed calm, as always. "This ramp is legally required under the ADA," she said evenly. "It's not optional. It stays." But Karen wasn't used to people standing up to her. From that day forward, she declared war on us. Over the next few months, we received constant violation letters. According to Linda, our trash bins were placed out too early. Our flowers were too colorful. She even claimed Emily's wheelchair left scuff marks on the sidewalk. It was harassment, plain and simple. But the breaking point came when Linda held an HOA meeting. She stood in front of all our neighbors, pointed directly at Emily, and said, "Some people here are using their so-called disability as an excuse to ignore the rules. This neighborhood isn't a charity." The room went silent. I was furious, ready to explode, but Emily put a hand on mine and whispered, "Not here. Not now." That night, she stayed up late in her office, surrounded by books, papers, and her laptop. She used to be a paralegal before her injury, and she still kept up with legal studies. She had a mind like a steel trap, and I could see the gears turning. When she finally closed her laptop and looked at me, she said one sentence that gave me chills. "She just broke the law. And I'm going to prove it." Weeks later, we found ourselves in court. Linda had actually filed a lawsuit against us, claiming the ramp was an unauthorized structure that violated HOA rules. She wanted it torn down. The irony. She thought she had the upper hand. When we walked into that courtroom, Linda smirked at Emily's wheelchair. Loud enough for others to hear, she whispered to one of her HOA cronies, "This will be easy. Look at her. She can't even stand." I clenched my fists. But Emily. She rolled forward, calm and unshaken. The judge entered, and the case began. Linda strutted up first, full of confidence. She waved her stack of HOA bylaws like they were sacred texts. "Your Honor," she said smugly, "the defendants knowingly violated community guidelines. This ramp is an eyesore. It decreases property values, and we want it removed." The judge nodded. "And what about federal accessibility laws? Did your HOA account for those?" Linda scoffed. "Those don't apply here. This is a private community." The judge raised an eyebrow. "We'll see about that." Defense. And that's when Emily wheeled herself forward, cool as ice. Emily adjusted her glasses, pulled out a binder thicker than a phone book, and began speaking in a calm, confident voice. "Your Honor, this case is not only baseless, but it's also discriminatory. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and reinforced by the Fair Housing Act, it is illegal to deny or restrict accessibility accommodations for disabled individuals. This ramp is not an unauthorized structure. It is a legal requirement." She flipped to a tabbed section of her binder and handed copies to the judge and opposing counsel. Here are federal cases that establish precedent, including U.S. v. California Mobile Home Park Management Company and Astralease Condominium Association v. HUD. Both make it crystal clear, accessibility cannot be denied by a homeowners association. Linda's smirk began to fade. Emily continued, her voice firm but never raised. Furthermore, the plaintiff publicly insulted me at an HOA meeting, questioning the legitimacy of my disability. That, Your Honor, is harassment and a direct violation of federal protections. You could hear a pin drop in that courtroom. Even the court stenographer looked impressed. Linda's lawyer tried to object, stammering something about community rules. But Emily didn't miss a beat. Community rules, she said sharply, do not supersede federal law. The HOA does not exist outside the law, it operates under it. The judge leaned forward, nodding. She's absolutely correct. Ms. Linda, your association cannot enforce policies that violate federal accessibility rights. Linda's face turned red. She sputtered, But she's making the neighborhood look bad. The judge banged the gavel. That's enough. Not only is this case dismissed, but I'm ordering the HOA to pay the defendant's legal fees and a fine for discriminatory conduct. You should consider yourselves lucky I'm not referring this for further civil rights action. Boom. Just like that, it was over. Emily had not only destroyed their entire case, she turned it back on them. Linda sat frozen in her chair, humiliated, while our neighbors whispered among themselves. Some even smiled at us, clearly relieved someone had finally stood up to her. Word spread fast through the neighborhood. Linda's reign of terror was over. She lost her position as HOA president within weeks after a special vote. Turns out, people had been waiting for someone to challenge her, and Emily had given them the courage to do it. As for us, we kept our ramp, our flowers, our colorful door, everything. And the HOA never bothered us again. In fact, several neighbors actually came over to thank Emily for standing up not just for herself, but for everyone. One woman said, I've lived here 10 years, and nobody's ever shut Linda down like that. You're incredible. Emily just smiled and said, I didn't do anything special. I just knew the law. But to me, it was more than that. She showed strength, intelligence, and grace, even when insulted and underestimated. So what's the lesson here? Never assume someone's weakness makes them powerless. Karen thought my wife's wheelchair made her an easy target. She thought she could bully her into silence. But Emily proved that real power isn't about who shouts the loudest, it's about who knows the truth and how to use it. And sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the one you should fear the most. So the next time someone tries to tear you down, remember Emily. She didn't just fight back, she won with dignity, intelligence, and unshakable strength. In the end, HOA Karen walked into that courtroom thinking she was untouchable. She walked out humiliated, defeated, and broke. And my wife. She rolled out with her head held high, having reminded everyone that respect isn't given, it's earned. And that's why you should never ever underestimate the quiet genius sitting right in front of you. Because when push comes to shove, that easy target might just be the one person smart enough to take you down for good.